Okay, we are at the USA Film Festival, the 55th anniversary edition of the USA Film Festival in Dallas, Texas. My name is John Wildman, doing a special segment for Selig Film News. And we're going to talk to one of the people that are having a big salute here this year, Martin Kove, a friend of the festival. Martin, nice to have you here.
Thank you.
And now, I want to talk to you because I've overheard a couple of interviews that you've done today, and you have been on so many variations of film sets in your career, because you go, we were here for Death Race 2000, so that's a Roger Corman special, and then you've had big blockbuster films like that you've done, another one with Sylvester Stallone, and then you've been on TV, it's a number of TV sets, and you've been on different variations from Karate Kid to Cobra Kai. So I would love for you to talk a moment about, is it all just the same to you? Because you've had an extensive career, is it just, listen, I did my lines, I hit my marks, and I went home? Or is it, do you have a moment where you go, oh shit, we've got like the Honey Wagons Deluxe on this one, or oh crap, I've got a lot of green screens behind me. Do those things impact you as you're acting?
I think, when it's written well, there were so many times the young actors would come up, the regulars on Cobra Kai, and they'd say, I got a script and I got an offer, and the script is just fair, but the part is great, so I probably will take it. And then I would tell them, no matter how much you love a role, if the script and the written material isn't there, no one's going to see it. And I used to be arrogant enough in my early days of my career to say that I could improve the movie by my performance. If the words are not on the page to make an interesting movie, it's not going to happen. You could be Peter O'Toole, you could be Laurence Olivier, it doesn't matter. Christine and I watched Lion in Winter a couple of nights ago. Katharine Hepburn, Peter O'Toole. Doesn't get better than that. But the words were brilliant. James Goldman, every line was brilliant. So if you're lucky enough really to be given something that's written well, you'll decide ultimately to do the best job you can. You'll do your backstory. You get something that's flimsy. You kind of wonder why you're taking it and doing it. And I had those too. When I had my kids born, I did paycheck jobs. And you kind of regretted them, because I came out of all these A movies after Karate Kid, and then Rambo, and then Wyatt Earp, and all these different things, Cagney and Lacey, all in the 80s. And then when the kids were born in 1990, I started doing these movies I shouldn't have done, that I did because they were paycheck jobs, and they were martial arts movies, and never should have done them.
And let's talk about the difference between directors in it. Going from something like a Paul Bartel on Death Race 2000 to a John Avildsen to the Wyatt Earp. Talk about how that can really help you draw something out. Because there's one thing for you to, all actors go, well, here are my beats in as you're going through the script. This is my obvious things that I'm doing. This obviously this is what but then sometimes a director can go, what about this? And you go, holy crap, I didn't think about that. Have you had those moments where a director whispered something in your ear or in a direction, and you said, oh, yeah, let me try that. Let me take doing that.
David Carradine was a good friend of mine, and he said to me, the greatest example of what you're asking, he said, I've never worked for a better director than Tarantino. And I said, what do you mean? We were walking the beach in Malibu, and he said he would whisper little things in my ear, little 2 words, 3 words, then go away. And I I said, wow, that was it? He says, I couldn't tell you the words because it was just in the moment. But there are, directors that know, number one, to leave you alone if you're doing good work. There are some directors that I've had in television that had a need to give me a direction that was unnecessary. And 9 out of 10 times I would just repeat myself and do the same thing I did. And he said, great, that was a great take. And I was doing exactly the same thing I did when he bothered me, So, but then you get, the new guys like Larry Kasdan and Wyatt Earp, and he was just wonderful, and he hadn't directed a lot, and he was great. But he also had Kevin to go back and forth with, and Kevin is a wonderful director, So it all varies in the project. I don't remember a lot of direction in Karate Kid. I think John gave me. He told me, I don't want any smiles. I want death. He said, I want John Kreese to be one-dimensional. And it was a cartoon. And I did it, and it was very successful. But I did want to smile. I did want to have vulnerable moments, because in Cobra Kai, my happiest season was season 6, when I was vulnerable, when I made people cry by, embracing Billy and all that. So, there are times when directors let you go, and there are times they feel compelled to tell you stuff, and most of the directors don't say very much. They'll just come in and whisper a little bit, like Tarantino. When I worked with Tarantino on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I don't remember getting a lot of direction, just like with John Avildsen, because they had a vision. They knew what they wanted. They knew. There's a reason why Marty Scorsese always hires Robert De Niro. He knows what he's going to get, and Quentin knows what he's going to get. He knows what he wants, and he doesn't. These people don't waste time on a $100 million movie having to nurse a bunch of actors. In the early days, I would have to be nursed because I kept thinking I was Steve McQueen. I kept wanting to be Steve McQueen. In the first 20 years of my career, I was trying to be, Josh Randall in Wanted Dead or Alive, Right. I want to be cool like Steve. And then I realized that it's okay to be Martin Kove. It's really okay. And that didn't come till I think I had kids 20 years into my career. I was lucky. I made a living, but I wasn't doing the best work I could.
The other thing, I love talking with someone like yourself who has had a career like you have had. And I always love to ask this question of, when you're on a set now, because I know, on film sets that I'm on, there's some actors that you go, everybody looks to that guy or that woman and they set the tone. Because you go, all right, if they are busting their ass on this film, if they're doing and they are towing the line, then I'm not gonna do any diva behavior. I'm not gonna do anything bad because I'm gonna try to emulate exactly what they're doing. And so then whenever I have a chance to talk with someone like yourself, I go, are you kind of aware of that when you're on the set, that you go, I'm kind of the guy, people are kind of looking to me, like I'm going to set the tone here. Are you aware of that?
Yeah, I'm aware of it more now than ever before since the success of Cobra Kai. Success of a movie is one thing, but Cobra Kai was a phenomenon. So you had people who saw us acting 35 years ago. Then you have the series. Then you had kids watching the series. The parents took the kids and said, come see the movies with the same characters we experienced 35 years ago. The kids would see the movies, love the movies, then everybody would watch Cobra Kai as a family event. It became a phenomenon. And ever since then, I really do complete that image you said. I can see what's going on, and everybody's coming up or leaning in on me. Even the actors who have the leads in the movies, because there've been a couple of movies that I've done since the success of Cobra Kai that I have not been the lead in. but I become the respected one. I become, wow, it's Martin Kove. You know, and I never thought about any of that shit before, ever. You know, you're always just trying to go and do the work. But when you get to that level, it's like when I work with DiCaprio. I don't ever talk, when I work with Charlie Bronson in White Buffalo, and here he was, you know, Charles Bronson. I would go and talk to him about early movies, when Hell Broke Loose, The Great Escape, you know, Magnificent Seven. I talk about, and I bring 8x10s, because I had a collection of 8x10s, and I would bring 8x10s from those movies. Not asking for a signature, just showing him, this is a great movie. That moment you had at the table there, and they loved talking to me because I was a film person, not because, oh man, I'm a big fan, you know?
Right.
So when I would talk to DiCaprio, we'd talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly movie posters. He had the same movie posters I have in my house. A few dollars more, all in Italian or in French. And somehow, when you have those kind of actors on the set, and Brad Pitt, and, you know, there's a common ground that you find. I don't find, hey, I'm a big fan. I don't go there, you know? And when people come up to me in that, I'm a big fan, I like it and shake the hand. But if they come up and talk to me about, you know, I loved you in that Death Race 2000. I loved you in something, White Line Fever, you know? You talk about their experience, you know, so you don't want to play a diva because you're already respected and, you know, acknowledged as being the diva without being a diva.
Right. Okay. Final question. I have to ask you about. I happened upon this story that Bill Hader was talking about on YouTube. Do you remember that? Do you know?
Yeah, that's the story. He drove me.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, I do not remember that story. That has haunted me for a very long time.
It is such a funny story, and I'll do a brief recap. All right. So apparently, according to Bill Hader,
you gotta hear this, Christine.
All right.
Total abuse.
So Bill Hader, one of the first jobs, he's a PA on a film, and his job is to drive you from the place you're staying to the set and back and forth each day. So the first day, he's looking at his Thomas guide. Back in the days when we used to have Thomas guides to get around LA, but you tell him, no, take this way, take this way, take this way, and he goes, well, I think I'm supposed to do this, and you go, no, take this way. So he's late. He gets you to the set late. He gets yelled at, and you get agitated over the whole kerfluffle over it, apparently. So now on the way home from the set that night, you go, I want to make it up to you. And he goes, I'm fine. Yeah, I want to make it up to you. You like cookies? Yeah, they're fine. What about chocolate shake? And he goes, yeah. He goes, what flavor? I don't really need chocolate. Okay, fine. Stop, and I'm going to get you a chocolate shake and a cookie. We're going to do this. So he stops at like a McDonald's or something. You go into the McDonald's. You get the shake and the cookie. Then you walk back out in the car, and you eat the cookie and drink the shake in front of him as he drives you home.
Right.
It is diabolical.
I've heard so many versions of this. And I've always wanted. Sometimes I get angry. Sometimes I crack up.
It's hilarious.
Because number one, it's not to say I wouldn't stop. I heard the other version where we were late because I made him stop off and get the cookie and get the malt because I needed a malt. It was in the afternoon. It wasn't in the morning. And I heard that version. And then I didn't have any thoughtfulness. I didn't have enough thoughtfulness to buy him a cookie. So I ate the cookie and drank the malt in the back seat. And then, of course, we were late to the set. I do not remember this at all. I have heard versions of this lack of consideration over and over again. And now, you know, he and Henry had that wonderful show, and, you know, Henry's an old friend. And, you know, I like to bump into him and say, can you tell me the tell me the whole deal from the moment you pick me up, so I can hear it from the horse's mouth. You know, because I've heard this. I've heard this from so many people. It's like, you know, and I got angry at the beginning. I said I would never do anything like that. Go in and get cookie, make somebody late, then eat the cookie, drink the malt, and then condescend. I would never do that. But I would love to know what movie it was, because then I could put two and two together.
Right.
I never heard what movie it was.
Nobody
talks about it.
I don't think he mentions which movie it was. But it is. It's hilarious, and I was like going, you know, because the stuff I wanted to talk to you about was, again, life on the set, and from your perspective, and you know, and how much awareness you have of everything versus just me and the camera and me and the director. And I thought, well, that'd be a very funny way to end it, because of, you know, to take it.
Yeah, it's very fast. But honestly, the greatest experience I can remember on the set was on the last year of Gunsmoke. I did. And for every actor, I'm in Hollywood a year, and I get a Gunsmoke. And I want to tell you, it was during lunch, we galloped our horses up and down the indoor CBS Radford Street. We mingled with the saloon girls. It was, you know, three brothers, and David Huddleston played our father. It was a standard story. And I think we killed Ron Howard's mother and father. We killed them in this show. And it's hysterical, because I saw him at a Comic-Con a month ago, and I went up to him and I said, you know, I killed your parents in Gunsmoke, you know? And he's a lovely guy. He says, oh, yeah, I remember that. And anyway, going on, you know, being a young talent, I had more fun in those days on the sets, because it was just so new. It was so interesting. Gunsmoke, 22 years on the air. You know, Matt Dillon, James Arness, peeling the script off the pages and saying, Milburn Stone can say this. Oh, Amanda will say this. And Chester will say this. And we're three new actors sitting on the steps dying to get this dialogue, but we can't, because we're the bad guys, you know?
Right. Well, yeah, and for someone like yourself that truly loves Hollywood and filmmaking, I have to think every opportunity when you're on those classic sets, those backlots, like, I mean, even now you go on the Warner Brothers backlot, or actually not the tour, but the legit Universal backlots. It's just magical to be in those. I have to imagine that every instance of those on those television shows at that time was amazing.
There were so many times I would revisit. Like, my first movie was Capone. Ben Gazzara and Susan Blakely, and I played a torpedo, Pete Gusenberg, who dies in the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. And all those streets in the back of Paramount, all those, it was Warner Brothers. All those streets, every time I revisit them, the old New York streets and all, they're still the same. And there's a magic that goes on. And it's, you know, it's almost as if when you go visit the Little Italy, you can't help all those storefronts look the same now, and they don't change much. Coppola didn't do much in Godfather 2 and, you know, to it. And I walk up and down that when I go to New York City. And I mean, I've seen Moulin Rouge 5 times. I go back to see plays over and over again as often as I can. And I often make it to Little Italy, because Godfather 2 was brilliant. And it looks like a movie set. That's how good he designed those streets. You know, they're still the same 50 years later. And you get that tingle. You know, you get the tingle. It's, it definitely happens. No matter what country I'm in, if I know there was a movie set, you get the tingle. I get that tingle from railroad tracks. Walking on railroad tracks, and I've said this to Christine, you say to yourself, in the middle of Wisconsin, you walk on a railroad track, where was this train going? Was Jesse James on this train? Was Billy the Kid, did he take it for a stop or two? You know, was Butch and Sundance, did they rob people on? And you wonder what happened on those tracks. That, to me, that's what happens when I visit a movie set.
Well, you know, the USA Film Festival has kind of built a name for it, for having men and women like yourself, giving them a place to kind of luxuriate in movie making and the filmography that they've had, and I could not imagine for another better, wonderful representative of that, and it's wonderful to have you here.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Very kind. Thank you very much.